I went into a boxing gym and I found out that I couldn't even throw a jab. I had no skill whatsoever.
Can I refer to him as Olympian yet? I know you've qualified, but are we there yet?
Technically, yeah. I'm an
Tattoo
Olympian.
yet or not?
No, I'm not going to go that far yet.
Are you going to get one?
Oh, yeah, of course. I don't want to just be saying this, but I work harder than anybody. I know I do. I'm not just saying it. The confidence is just there. This is what it's about. This is why I love amateur boxing. Because amateur boxing, there's nowhere to run or hide. You have to fight the best. You have to. I've come from some serious hardship. In Russia it's difficult. It's hard. Life's hard. My dad, it was very difficult for him to even be able to get a job. Because of his skin color, and it was just difficult. So I remember growing up thinking, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to have a hard life. When I'm an adult.
Hello and welcome back to One-on-One Boxing with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am delighted to be joined for a new episode of One-on-One with by none other than the reigning European and Commonwealth super heavyweight champion. It's the one and only Delicious Orie in ID Studios. How are you, Delicious?
I'm very well. I feel like I wanted to clap.
That's all right, we can get the clap out. The clap's fine. Yeah, no, that's all good. I've been working on that all morning.
I'm very well, thank you very much. How are you? Okay?
Good. I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, a bit tired. Had a late night at the weekend watching the boxing, but it's completely self-inflicted. So I can't moan too much.
You love it. You just you can't complain.
That's it. I'm a very uncomplicated man. Yeah. Delicious. I like my fast food and my fast boxing. Yeah. That's it. And that's literally it. How about yourself? It's been a little while since I saw you. I saw you in Birmingham for Galau's fight.
Yeah, that was good.
But I haven't seen you since. What have you been up to?
Man, I've just been training hard. My life is fairly simple, really. Just train, sleep, eat, and that's about it, really. So, after that fight, I was just, in my cave, in my camp, and that's it, really.
Yeah, I mean, the life of a boxer, particularly sort of high-level boxer, as you, of course, are, is, can be, for lack of a better word, quite boring, because it is eat, sleep, train, repeat, for an occasional fight in there at some point. But yeah, it's good to have you in today. Just wanted to do a bit of a general catch-up, really, because as we'll kind of come to learn in this sit-down, you are, of course, now. I don't know whether or not, can I refer to him as Olympian yet? I know you've qualified, but are we there yet?
Technically, yeah. I'm an
Tattoo
Olympian.
Yet or not?
No, I'm not going to go that far yet.
Are you going to get one?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I've got to get one. But just not yet, because you've got to experience it first before you start slapping it on you. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. We'll see.
God, man, imagine you got the rings and then certainly don't want to tempt fate and certainly hope that something, and then you stub a toe or something and you can't go. You just got this tattoo. You're an Olympian, yeah, sort of,
kind of.
But yeah, as again we'll kind of come to learn through the sit down. You are Team GB super heavyweight offering at Paris 2024. So if you don't know, get to know, because we are only a matter of months away now. It's really come around quickly. I think kind of the whole COVID experience. And then not knowing there was obviously are we even going to have boxing? And it's kind of created this sort of timeline where the Olympics is sort of around the corner. Do you feel like that?
You know what? I remember because I went out to Tokyo for to be a sparring partner for Fraser. Honestly, I remember that like it was yesterday. Like I remember the build up, everything. I remember being there sparring Fraser. So it's gone so quick. And I also remember the year before the Commonwealth Games and how quickly that went. So I'm not taking the time for granted. I know I've got very little time, but at the same time, it's good enough. It's a good amount of time to get me ready.
I suppose part of it as well is that you're not like just thinking about it. You've actively got to get ready for it. So there's not too much, I'd imagine, sitting around waiting and twiddling your thumbs.
I've got training camps coming up, tournaments, all this stuff. Team GB are keeping me very busy. I'm in training camps every week, so things are very, very busy. All for the lead up for the games.
Just giving a little bit of an insight to the audience and people who are watching, because I think sometimes people just think that people just turn up at the Olympic Village and they just rock up and I'm going to box today for GB and then it goes from there. But it's quite different, isn't it? The whole process of qualifying for the Olympics and kind of the whole journey to get there, really. Why don't you tell us what yours has been like over the last few years?
I mean, you got to, first of all, you've got to be the best in Great Britain. You've got to be the number one. To do that, you've got to win a national title, and then you get assessed by GB Boxing, and then you then do as many tournaments as you possibly can, as much as you can be entered majors, prove yourself, to Team GB, and then you then potentially can get the opportunity to go and compete in majors, and that's where you really make your mark, set yourself to the world, show show your name, who you are, and yeah, that's it. So the more you do that, the more chances are more likely you're going to get into the Olympics. I've solidified my space at the European Games, so 5 fights, 5 wins, got a gold medal, and so it's put me up in a really nice position now to go out there and get that gold medal in the Olympics.
Before we come on to that and you kind of your plans for Olympic gold and then global domination after that, go back to the start, because I'm sitting here across from you now. Obviously, I've met you before, but you're a very, very handsome young man, very articulate young man. It seems as though you could have done an awful lot of things in your life that don't require being punched in the face. So what was it about boxing that kind of tickled your fancy, so to speak? Where did it start for you?
You know what? I feel like this is a long time ago, but it's not too far. I was 18 years old, starting boxing. But before I started, didn't know anything about boxing. Family members, none of them box, or got no friends or anything like that box. And I sort of hit a real roadblock in my life. I don't want to go into all those details, but it's just basically I used to play basketball, couldn't carry on for whatever reason, and I just thought, what's something else that I can do, that can really put me at the top. And I was very broad with it. I was thinking, what can I do? I was, just thinking of different little things. And AJ came at the most perfect time, And in 2016, when he won his first world title, and that was it then for me. I was thinking, all right, this guy looks real cool. I want to do this. I want to give it a go. I seen the route that the route that he went through, the Olympic route, and then turned professional. So I had my eyes set on the Olympics, and we're 1 year away, less than 1 year away, and that's the journey so far.
Just remember walking into the gym first, because obviously you've come from basketball, which is obviously a team sport. Boxing is very much a single person sport. It's very, it can be a lonely sport at times. Did you like that? Did that appeal to you? The kind of the one-on-one, it's all on me. You don't have to worry about 4 other teammates.
Yes, it did. It did. So I remember walking to the gym for the first time. I'd never been in a boxing gym before. And just, first of all, the smell. It was hardcore, proper grimy. That stuck out to me. So I remember walking to the gym and then looking at the ring, the blood on the ring, on the floor, on the canvas. And I'm like, this is medieval, man. But it was something that I just accepted from the get-go. When you begin, it could be quite, quite a daunting experience. But for me, it was something I accepted. I was like, all right. As soon as I walked into the boxing gym, I was like, okay, this is going to be my life now for how foreseeable future, however long. And I just accepted it. When I got punched in the face for the first time, it wasn't nice. I've got quite a big nose, and it's quite hard to miss. And again, that wasn't nice. But it was something that I just accepted, and I was just like, had one focus. At the start, it was to win the national title. And that's exactly what I went out to do I think it was about two years later. When
you first went into the gym, were you any good? Or did you think at the time, I need to...
do you know what it is with boxing? I think boxing is it's a very humbling experience. And this is why I advise anyone, I'm not saying everyone should compete, but just to get into a boxing ring. Because me being naturally I was always a big guy. I just thought, I could do it. I seen AJ knock a guy out. I was like, I can do that. Light work. I could get in the ring and do it. Quite not arrogant, because I'm not an arrogant person, but it's quite naive. I say it that way. It's naive. So I went into a boxing gym and I found out that I couldn't even throw a jab. Genuinely, there was no technique, nothing. I couldn't skip. I had no skill whatsoever, and it was a very humbling experience to be punched repeatedly, for 3 minutes and just looking at the clock and just begging, but having to just stay strong in there. And then when you get out of the gym, you think, wow, this is actually hard. You think 3 minutes is not long. It's a long time in the ring for when you start. So it's a very, very humbling experience. So at the time, a bit naive. And then when I really experienced the true hardship of boxing, it humbled me. And then this is the path I'm on now.
You mentioned that kind of going into the gym. It's funny you should say that about the smell, because it's something that people do always talk about. So I was quite interested by that. Was it right away? You kind of mentioned that you walked in, you had the smell, you saw everything. You was like, okay, this is going to be me. Was it in that first session?
Straight away. You know what? This is going to be me when I seen AJ. So I never even know where my closest boxing gym is, or nothing like that. I just set my mind to it. And like you were saying, it was like this thing of going from a sports team, kind of a team sport, to a individual sport. For me, I'm very driven. So I feel like it being an individual sport really helped. And I just thought to myself, I can do this. Like, if I could, because it's all on me. It's no one else's, problem, or no one else can help me. It's just me, and I had the confidence in myself. Yeah.
What was the reception from your family? We're going to talk a little bit about kind of your DNA really and your makeup. People, let's just jump straight into it. Delicious is a brilliant name. I absolutely love the name Delicious. When I told my missus yesterday, she said, "What are you doing?" So I'm interviewing Delicious Orie, and she went,
"What? Who is that?
is that a real person?" And I went, "Yeah, he's very real." Yeah. But just tell us a little bit about your background really before we come on to the greatest name in boxing.
So background, I was born in Russia, Moscow. Just a standard Russian kid. Lived there till I was 7 years old. Went to kindergarten there, they call it basically nursery. And I remember my dad telling me we're going to move to the UK. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go. Not like I had a choice. But yeah, we went over, and so it's just, again, starting a new life here in the UK. I was in year 4. I remember not being able to speak a word of English. It was quite difficult at the start, being someone from Russia. But again, feeling a little bit, a little bit different there. And then coming to the UK, blending a little bit, because I thought, oh, actually, look, this guy's mixed race, this guy's, Asian, this guy's black. But not being able to fully communicate because of that language barrier. So it was difficult in both sense. But over time, as a child, it's easy to pick language up when you're surrounded by it, immersed in it all the time. I grew up in the West Midlands in Wolverhampton, and yeah, that's really about it. Really, I basically started playing basketball naturally. I was quite a taller kid, so I gravitated towards basketball. I was always driven. That's one thing I remember about myself as a kid. Like, I remember being 10, and I was initially inspired by a guy called Luol Deng, who was a basketball player from the NBA. And he migrated from Sudan to the UK. And I was inspired by him because I was like, oh, he was able to make, big things in his life from, being in a position where he basically had nothing. So I thought, I was very inspired by that. So I just thought, all right, I'm going to be a basketballer. And that was the mindset I had. And I went all the way and played all the way to about 17, 18. And I had passport issues. So I couldn't leave, basically, the UK. So I thought, oh man, what can I do now? And that's how I then decided to take on boxing and do it that way instead.
That drive that you mentioned there and kind of really noticing it about 10, do you think part of that is coming from a completely different environment, being sort of plonked in sort of a weird way, but like put into a completely whole new environment and sort of being not left to yourself, but having to exist in a completely different meaning? Yeah. Do you think that's where that drive came from?
I think, you know what, I do think to myself about it. I spoke with my mum a few times about it as well. It's like, where does this drive come from? Like, why am I like, why do I want to become the best at whatever it is? I just feel like, as a kid, I've come from some serious hardship. In Russia, it's difficult. It's hard. Life's hard. My dad, it was very difficult for him to even be able to get a job. For his skin color, and it was just difficult. So I just remember life being really tough. And I remember growing up thinking, I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to have a hard life, when I'm an adult. So I think naturally, it's always been in me, as a kid, at school, making sure I perform well at school and I get good grades. With sports, making sure whatever it is, I do well in my sport. So, in school, I made sure I went to university, got a good degree. All these things is sort of on the back of my mind. I don't want to end up in a position where I don't have any opportunities. And as well, I also realized that in the UK, so I remember when I was 7 coming to the UK and growing up, there's so much opportunity here. Like, whatever it is you want to do, you can just go and do it. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. If you go countries, like, there's some countries out in this world, whatever, no matter how good you are, you're not getting anywhere. Like, just because you don't know somebody or because your skin is a certain colour. Whereas in UK, if you want to be a good table tennis player, you just go and do it at 10, 12, 15. What does it matter? If you want to be a businessman, multi-million pound company, go, you can do it. So I took that full advantage of that, because I'm like, I've got the opportunity, let me go and do it. You know, I'm physically able, mentally, physically. I've got the height, I've got the build, I've got the mind. So why not just give it a go? You know what I mean? So that's how and it's just the same mentality now. That's just how I operate, and I'll just do it until get the results. And we're getting results now, but this is definitely not the end.
We're just getting started. Just getting started. You mentioned there about your dad's skin color. You're half Nigerian, half Russian. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
That's quite the blend of cultures.
Yeah,
I mean, I have
different.
Nigerian friends. I have Russian friends.
Yeah, it's different.
They're different people.
Yeah, completely.
What's that like?
Yeah, it's like, that aspect of my life as well. I'm really blessed because I've come to really appreciate different cultures, and like different cultures have different levels of respect for different things. So, some things that you say to a Nigerian father will be different to what you say to a Russian mother. For example, the way you address things, the way you speak to them about things. And I feel like I'm blessed in that area, because I'm able to really appreciate cultures for what they are. They're completely different, but I'm just very fortunate to be able to be a part of it.
So I guess probably the easiest way to kind of work this out for the layman, I suppose, if I'm coming for Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
So I'm coming for Sunday dinner at the half Nigerian, half Russian house. Yeah, what am I having? What are we having?
You know what? It's just going to be a buffet of just mixture of just Eastern European food and African food. Honestly, it's because my mom can do both as well. So it's just complete mix up, really. You just, whatever you want.
I'm not fussy, as you can see. Yeah, delicious. So I'll have anything. The name, as I mentioned earlier, Delicious Orie. I mean, you're always going to be something with a name like Delicious Orie. You're always going to have, it kind of sounds like a superhero name, like in a little part of it. What's the? I guess, is there a story behind the name? Is there, or is it just something that kind of happened? That strikes me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Delicious is more of a Nigerian.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. So it was fully my dad who called me Delicious. His cousin's son, so his nephews and his nieces are quite interesting names as well. So it's a very common thing to call your kids sort of that kind of thing. So for example, I've got cousins, Precious, Blessing, Comfort,
Happy.
Yeah, it's a goodness. It's quite common. So I think my dad just wanted to take it one step further, because I've never heard of Delicious. So Delicious is the first time for me even. So I think he just wanted to take it a step further, and that's literally just a story.
What was it like at school with a name like Delicious? Were people interested by it? I mean, I would have been interested by it.
Do you know what I found out? To be fair, growing up at school, it was hard, especially early.
Yeah,
primary school. Primary school kids, they're savage.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't mess about.
Yeah.
So it was quite hard. You do feel a bit like an outsider, and you question yourself, like, why am I called that? Why can't I just be called like
John?
Everyone
John
else
Orie is never going to win anything.
Yeah, you're not going to get slaughtered for John. You know what I mean? But it's natural for me to have these kind of questions. But over time, I feel like the more mature the people I surround myself with, the more they just kind of just understand. And you know what? The biggest thing I found out, and I really respect this, is when I go to schools now, especially like secondary schools, but even primary schools, like the way they are towards that name, it's just normal. Like, oh yeah, his name's Delicious. I feel like schools nowadays, and this is what I love, they're a lot more understanding, and a lot more, because obviously you've got access to the internet, social media, and everything like that. Everything is just it's not as bizarre.
Yeah.
So you're not as prone to things like bullying and in my opinion, I think if I grew up as a kid with a name Delicious today, it would be a bit different to when I was Delicious in 2007. So I just feel like it's a lot more accepting nowadays, which is great. I feel like it's a really good thing.
I'm always fascinated to speak to people who have been on GB for any kind of length of time about a certain Rob McCracken. I know how close he is to pretty much everybody who's up there at the English Institute of Sport. What's your relationship like with Rob? What I guess, how did it start and how's it developed over time? Because I mean, you now sit here waiting to go to the Olympics, but I'm sure it wasn't that when you first walked through the doors there.
Look, I absolutely love Rob. He's looked after me ever since I first walked through them doors. I stepped in through the doors. Anything I needed, he's always looked after me. You know, I've had some troubles at the start with my passport. You know, being on GB Boxing, and he's been there every step of the way. And you know, as soon as I was able to get that passport, he just got me out to different tournaments. And the thing is with Rob, he knows exactly what I need in terms of training, and in terms of just getting me better to get to that world level, to stand on top of that podium in the Olympics. Because he's done it countless times with the previous super heavyweights, the likes of Joyce and Anthony Joshua. So he knows what he's doing. And for me, the way I look at it is, I get, especially before big finals, you know, like the big majors, like, you know, the Commonwealths or for example, the Europeans, you know, you get nervous. Everyone gets nervous. But sometimes I'll sit there and think, I have got the best people, you know, in the past. All these super heavyweights have got to the finals in these major tournaments, and it's these exact same people that are in my dressing room right now who's got them there in that corner. I'm in the best hands. Why am I nervous? You know, I shouldn't be nervous. So that's just the way I see it. I've got full and utter confidence in Team GB and Rob McCracken, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
Mentioned there about Anthony Joshua and Joe Joyce. They're two guys who also came to boxing late. So, I mean, Rob has the experience of kind of nurturing that talent at not the earliest of stages. Is that something that you feel has been beneficial to you, kind of having that track record with those guys? Yeah.
Like I was saying, you know, Rob has looked after Joyce, he's looked after Anthony Joshua, and he knows what it takes in order to get to that level. He knows the sparring partners you need. He knows the type of runs you need to do. He's so experienced, he just knows. So I've got full and utter confidence in him and his team.
You mentioned there about the majors. I actually watched, along with Sean O'Toole, shout out Sean O'Toole, you throughout the Commonwealths and throughout the Europeans, obviously gold medal in both. Yeah. What was the pressure like for the Commonwealths? Because I was in Birmingham, which is obviously your neck of the woods. So with that, I mean, I spoke to Josh Taylor about Glasgow when the Commonwealth Games were there. How does it make you feel when you've got that weight of expectation, when you're kind of the home, or do you just put it to one side, or was it difficult?
You know what? It was definitely there. The pressure was there. It was there. I felt it all the way throughout that. When the Commonwealth Games started, you know, the opponents that I came up across were tough. They were good. Some of them were known, very well known. So for me, it was like I knew that this is not going to be easy. But I also had a lot of confidence. You know, before major tournaments, I don't want to just be saying this, but I work harder than anybody. I know I do. Like I'm not just saying it. I'm not trying to be like cocky or anything. Like deep down within me, I know I work harder than all of them. Every single super heavyweight ever. So the confidence is just there. And when yes, the pressure is there as well. But when I step in the ring, I just know I have the confidence that I have what it takes to be able to win. So yeah, you know, and the fact that I'm with Team GB as well, that just adds to that, another layer to that confidence. And I know I'm in a very, very good place for the Olympics next year. I'm just going to take it on. The Commonwealth Games and the qualifiers were perfect stepping stones to get me to the Olympics next year. I feel like if I was just, don't get me wrong, I'd perform in the Olympics if I was just put in straight in there, I'd perform. But I feel like the Commonwealths, with that expectations and the pressure that I had in my, you know, being on local home turf, and the Europeans being so prestigious with some top quality talent, I know it's put me in a really nice place for the Olympics.
Did you notice a difference after the Commonwealths, kind of being in the Midlands, and even small things like you speak to fighters about, I walked down to the shop to get some milk and somebody stopped me, oh, you're that boxer, aren't you?
Yeah,
was it different?
I've noticed it. Yeah, I've noticed, especially after the Commonwealths. You know, we went out for a cruise, for example, and it was just like, yeah, there'll be nobody who would know me here. Come on, it's just middle of like Mediterranean island. Just get some like people saying hello and like having chats and photos. I absolutely love it, and I have a lot of time for it. And it just shows that like the work I'm putting in is being recognised, and people are aware of what I'm doing, and that's what I want. I also want, as well as that, I also want people just to get together and watch Delicious Orie box, you know. And after the Commonwealth Games, that was it for me. You know what? When after the finals, when it was like the crowd, thousands of people cheering, and I was like, man, I want this. You know, in the next few years, even in the Olympics or when I turn professional, just Saturday night, Friday night, whatever, just have the whole British public just get together, whether they like me or hate me, whatever. Just get together and enjoy a night of boxing. Just entertainment, you know? And I can't wait to bring that. Honestly, genuinely, I cannot wait to bring that.
I've seen you, I mentioned there earlier, kind of seen you in the Birmingham show. I've seen you kind of around and across the circuit over probably the last year, 18 months or so. Gives you that insight into how a professional shows, not only just, we all know it's kind of 3 minute or 10 threes or 12 threes or whatever, depending on the fight. But it also gives you that insight into what the show looks like, how a show's put together. So we do some punditry work as well for the Zone. It kind of gives you that full impression. Manuel Stewart used to do it. He used to talk about like taking Andy Lee with him when Andy Lee was kind of a 2-0 fighter and just giving him the insight and giving him this is what it's actually like. And when the adverts go, this is what happens. Yes. Have you found that beneficial?
Yes. Just finding out how things work, the infrastructure, because the way things work in the amateurs is different to the pros. It's a different setup. So just finding out how it works, it makes it easier for me. It gives me a little bit more comfort. I'm a lot more comfortable in there, and that's just how it. Because I know this is the industry I'm going to be involved in for, majority of my life. So might as well get in and find out how things work. How the infrastructure works.
We are a few months now away from Paris. You will be there. Somebody else who I think will also be there now by the looks of things, kind of will he, won't he, but it looks as though he will, is Bahadir Jalilov, the reigning European and world champion at super heavyweight. Kind of wish he would pick what he's doing just to make things a lot easier for everybody to stay up. Bahadir, if you're watching, massive fan of one-on-one boxing he is. Yeah, pick what you're doing, man. But anyway, great fighter. Looks as though he's going to be in Paris next year. Going to be a very difficult fight for anybody, yourself or anyone going up against him.
Yeah, it will be. He's a gold medalist at the Tokyo Olympics. Do you know what I mean? He's the guy to beat. So, but for me, I can't wait to see the whole world to watch that fight. It's going to be great, honestly. And I'm going to train very, very hard for the Olympics and for the rest of my life while I'm in boxing. So, I can't wait.
Have you been in the ring with him at all?
Never. Never had any sparring sessions or any fights with him, but it's inevitable. It will happen, hopefully before the Olympics, get in a tournament or a sparring session. But this is what it's about. This is why I love amateur boxing, because amateur boxing, there's nowhere to run or hide. It's like you have to fight the best. You have to. In the pros, you can kind of I don't like the look of him, I'm just going to swerve that. In amateurs, you get tested, and I love that because it puts me in a really nice position when I turn professional. At the end of the day, I'm in this sport I don't want to mess around. I just want to be the best, and I'll do everything that I possibly can to be the best. And then when I look back when I'm old, I'll be like, yeah, I tried, or you know what I mean, I did it, I'd give everything I possibly could. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. So for me, it's like I can't wait. This is why I'm staying in the amateurs. Partly why just to box everybody, box the best, and get that gold medal at the Olympics. And also at the same time to represent Team GB and show Great Britain how proud I am to be British.
Yeah, you make a great point. And I think that's part and parcel, I think, of one of the reasons why Jalilov still does do the amateurs as well, because I don't think he really gets the opportunities that he maybe feels that he deserves as a pro. Obviously, the lure of boxing as an amateur, particularly when you're as big a star as he is in his home country, is also a pull. But I think for him as well, he'll want to be boxing the best guys, which are not available to him in the pro ranks for all of the reasons that you just mentioned there.
Exactly. So, fair play to him. And as well as that, another thing I love about amateur boxing, like I said, you are able to represent your country, and he's loved in his country, and he's just representing his country. He's carrying the flag, he's getting the medals for him. So it's like, why not? Do your thing. So what amateur boxing is, like I said, best of the best competing, best of the best in the country is competing, and I just can't wait to be involved in that fight.
And we've been blessed here over the last 10 or 15 years or so. You mentioned, obviously, Anthony Joshua, Joe Joyce, Fraser Clark, another heavyweight kind of out of that GB fold up in Sheffield. You would have, I'd assume, boxed or certainly trained alongside, sparred the vast majority of those guys. Which one stands out?
For me, the guy who stood... You mean in terms of the pros?
I guess probably the ones that we're more familiar with on the GB side. So Joyce, Fraser Clark, Joshua...
So I've never done any work with Joyce, unfortunately. I would love to, and I probably will maybe in a few years or whatever. done a lot of rounds of Fraser, loads of rounds. And one thing I say with Fraser Clark is he was the one who put me up, dragged me up from the domestic scene to the international scene, because he's very experienced international scene wise. So, I was a very raw domestic boxer, didn't know anything about that international sort of style of boxing, and it was just Fraser who just got me up, because he was getting ready for the Olympics, and it was just him who got me up and made me learn by punching me in the face. Some say that made me learn the hard way, but he's honestly a great role model and somebody who I look up to. He's a great guy, and he's just great. As well as he's good in the ring, he's also great outside the ring.
He's that type of character, isn't he?
Oh,
Fraser?
yeah,
He likes to bring everyone forward. He was captain of the GB team out in Tokyo,
and rightfully so. Fraser, he's got very good morals. He doesn't. There's not many people I listen to. Like media wise, people that do interviews and stuff. I don't know, because it just doesn't really bother me. But Fraser, I would listen to, because he just speaks the truth. Like, he just speaks truth. Like, he doesn't hide in anything, so that's my take on Fraser, and AJ as well. Someone who's my role model, someone who I've looked up to, someone who's the reason I started boxing, why I'm sat in this chair in the first place. Again, amazing person. Great it was amazing to be able to do some rounds with him, and obviously be able to chat with him on the outside of the ring. So yeah, it's just the both stood out to me in different ways.
He posted a photo of you and him recently and said, what did he say? The past and the future, or the present and the future. I don't want to upset AJ. But yeah, that must have been surreal, I suppose. I mean, obviously by this stage you kind of know him and you've worked alongside him, but you mentioned kind of going back to that young kid who saw him win the world title. That must be crazy.
If he was to tell me that this was going to happen when I was 18, I wouldn't have. I'd be like, what? No matter how driven I was or ambitious I was, I'd be like, no, I wouldn't even believe it. But now, a few years later, 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, it's like, yeah, I should be mixing with these guys. This is the people that, this is why I work hard. I really do work hard in what I do. I'm not fluking anything. So, I feel like this is just part of it, of the people I need to be surrounded by, and people that I know that I'm going to be aiming, to be in that sort of level. So it's just part of it.
You mentioned kind of him being the one who sort of inspired you to take up boxing. I think there's an awful lot of people, potentially people watching this, who are the same with Anthony Joshua, kind of came through, certainly at the Olympics onwards, brought a lot of people through and kind of breathed life into boxing and British boxing that wasn't there necessarily before. It feels like over recent times, maybe the last couple of years or so, it's become sort of fashionable, if you can call it that, to slate AJ and kind of criticize him. What do you think about that? Is that just something that kind of is part and parcel of the territory? He's got to that stage where, because he is so massive, people are always going to have something to say.
They always, that's like you said, he's just, the bigger you get, you're going to just get more people who just hate him, And because I bring it back to the foundations, about AJ, and I just think to myself, this guy started boxing at 18 years old, same as me, and he got a gold medal, I believe, at Olympic Games, which I believe, in my opinion, this might be controversial, is harder than some world titles as a professional.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if it's controversial.
I don't think that's controversial.
That's difficult. Like, it's so hard.
Yeah. They come around once every 4 years, and you've got to box the best to the best to the best.
It's difficult, yeah. And he did that in 4 years, from starting from nothing, 18 to 22 or 21. I'm not sure exactly what age, but that's amazing. That's unheard of. You know what I mean? So I just think, I don't understand the slate, but when you're at that level, like you were saying, it's part of it. The more people that know you, the more people that want to bring you down, and I believe that's just humans in society and what we do, and it's something that might sound sad. It's something that I'm prepared for, in the future when I get to that level. I know that there's going to be people that I'm going to upset for just being me, so it's part of it. You gotta. I respect everybody equally, though, regardless of whatever they think. But that's just that's just the world we live in. It's not perfect.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. How are you with kind of criticism? Are you? Because I'm not going to name any names of fighters, but we can all probably pick certain examples of fighters who don't take kindly to it, no matter who it's from, whether it's someone that they respect, whether it's some idiot on Twitter or whoever. How are you with all of it? Because you seem like a pretty even keel sort of guy.
What my mom told me once, she said, if someone has a problem with you, online or wherever, they have a problem with themselves. There's nothing that you've got no problem with them. They have a problem with themselves. They've got to look within themselves. There's something going on there for them to have a problem with you if you haven't done anything wrong to them. So that's the way I look at it. I sort of look at it and think, I feel sorry, not in a derogatory way. I feel sorry for it. I feel whatever problems you have personally or whatever, I feel sorry for them. So I don't take it. I don't retaliate back or anything. I don't need to. I've got to train, man. I've got my bag work to do to be thinking about people that don't like me. Do you know what I mean?
That's something that you didn't learn from Fraser. Fraser loves it, man. He absolutely loves it. He's straight on there. I think for him it kind of like builds him up and he kind of gets that into his head. Just on Anthony Joshua, how much have you learned from him? Obviously the interactions that you've had since you kind of met and obviously shared rounds together. But I'm sure, I mean, as is often the case when you speak to people who have been around him, you know, he will advise the next generation coming through, and he does seem quite open in that regard. How's your experience been with him?
One thing I've learned about AJ is no matter how big you are, how big you get, you should always make time for people who are coming up or people that genuinely want advice or help from you, because he always had that time. You know, when we was at training camp or whatever, he'll always have time, like just to give me some advice on a specific shot, the jab, or how he feels before he's one of his fights, or how he feels when he gets, you know, a good shot in the ring, whatever, all these things like that. It's important to make sure you have some time for the next generation, because at the end of the day, that's what I believe life is about. You inspire and you let the person who is coming up do better than you, and you just get better and better. It's evolution. So that's just how the world works. So that's one of the things that AJ's taught me.
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our time together, Delicious. But before I let you go, a couple of quick ones from me. One of them really is a bit of a difficult question to ask. Okay. Certainly a difficult question to answer. Not really difficult to ask. It's fine. Okay. If I could give you, you remember one of the magic 8 balls, you shake it and see where the future lies for you in 10 years. Doesn't make any sense, but that's fine.
10 years.
10 years time.
No, 36.
10 years time, what do you want the magic 8 ball? It doesn't even say it. It's a yes or no thing. But anyway, what do you want it to say about your career? What do you want to have achieved in 10 years time?
Okay, so undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I'll be 36, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself boxing then? Or do you think you'll be done by
No, I'll
then?
be just about finishing. And I see myself being undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I also see myself hopefully inspiring as many children as possible, and hopefully getting at least one person to say, oh yeah, you did it, so I think I could do it. Do you know what I mean? And really mean it, as in they're following through with it. A bit like how I'm doing it right now with AJ being the role model, for example. So definitely those two things I see myself. 36, I see myself having a beautiful family, probably living somewhere in some countryside, you know, and just loving life, you know, just enjoying the little simple things in life, you know, family, people, you know. That's the most important thing. Boxing is a great, you know, massive part of my life. But what's more important is like love and like happiness. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like happiness is in family and people that will look after you if you have nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where I see myself when I'm 36 years old.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Good answer. I didn't want to hear a bunch of boxing stuff, to be honest with you. Like, genuinely didn't. What's your interest away from the ring? You mentioned they're kind of about love and, you know, they're great things, but... And boxing can be so all-encompassing sometimes, particularly when you're at that stage of your career where you're such a sponge and you're trying to learn and you're trying to kind of become the best version of what you can be. That can take over completely, but you need things to kind of just...
Ease off a little bit.
What do you do?
For me, like, I have a very busy camp in Sheffield, so when I'm back, I like to just chill out, relax with my family as much as I can. I meet my my siblings. I spend some time with my girlfriend. My mum and dad, very, very important to spend as much time with them as possible. Because one thing I notice is because I'm in camp majority of the days, I come back home and I'm like seeing my siblings. You know, I've got a 13-year-old brother growing. Yeah. Like he's gonna be bigger than me. He is. They're 100%. He's gonna be 6'8" minimum. But I just think, wow, I'm missing stuff, you know. And that's the part of the sacrifice. It's just part of the game. But it's like as much time that I could spend is really important. I do that. So that's really, really important to me. I hold close to my heart.
What do your family think about what you do now? And also, what do they think about it now compared to when you first told them that you wanted to box?
Yeah. I thought we've solved that question. My dad wasn't too happy with it when I started. He wasn't, and rightfully so. I wasn't. I was a teacher's pet at school. Like, in terms of confrontation and fighting, nah, never that. I've never fought in my life. So rightfully so, as a parent, as a father, you want to protect your kid. You think to yourself, this guy just goes to school, works hard, and comes back home. He's not gonna. Why is he gonna box? Why is he gonna put himself through that? So, I understand where he's coming from. My mom, she just supports me. Whatever I do, whatever I want to do, she's like, yeah, go and do that. It's good for you. But over time, my dad's my biggest fan. He really does support me, and he wants me there at the top. And he now knows after a few years that this is it. This is what I want to do. So it was difficult at the start, but over time when I proved when he was more his conviction was improved. So yeah, it got easier.
No, and imagine that kind of fills you with more confidence as things go, when you can kind of, because you're embarking on a career that is not normal, and you have to get to a certain point where, I guess, you can have the most kind of self-belief that you could have until you really do it. Even you don't really know. So being able to do that and then having everybody fall in line must be a great feeling once you've kind of, if you're kind of a child prodigy, you're 3-4 years old and you've got gloves on, then that's what you're always going to be, isn't it? Yeah. But when you're at that stage, it's different.
It's a huge shift in like my life, like the way I've always worked hard, and I was always like fixated on stuff that I needed to work on. But it was, going from school and basketball to the basketball court to, the boxing gym is two different things, completely different things. So it was difficult initially, but it got easier, and now that's just kind of like my identity, and that's just how it works.
Well, you're doing okay up to this point. So yeah, I think that probably brings us about to the end of things now. Before I let you go, Paris 2024, are we bringing back the bacon? Are we bringing back the gold?
Of course we are, 100%. I work very hard every single week, and this is the only thing that I envision now. It was the Commonwealth Games, ticked that off. The European Games, we've ticked that off. We've now got the big Olympic gold medal, and it will set me up very nicely for the professional game, which will then start again and get that heavyweight world title.
There we go, promoters. Get your checkbooks out. Delicious Orie is here, and he is coming. Delicious, thanks very much for stopping by today at ID Studios. Always a pleasure to catch up with you, be it here or kind of hunting you down at a show nearby. Look forward to catching up with you soon. I'm sure I will, but if I don't, then all the best next year at Paris. Bring home the gold.
Thank you very much, Rob.
The WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the world, the gentleman, Chris Billam-Smith.
It's probably my toughest fight to date, I think, stylistically, because he's just a hard bloke.
Your win over Lawrence Okolie. I think it's fair to say that you were an underdog going into that fight. You were an underdog.